What's the best place to live if you want to pursue an acting career? Do you have to live in Los Angeles or can you do it from another city? And do you need to move anywhere at all or can you start your career from where you live right now? Also, what if you live outside of the United States but you want to pursue a career in American movies and shows? We're going to talk about all of those topics in this video. What's up, my fellow actors? Welcome to the Acting Career Center, here to help you learn the skills you need to break into the film and television industry. My name is Kurt Yu. Thank you so much for spending some time here with me today. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button to get more videos on acting, auditioning, and career advice every single week. All right, so today's topic is what's the best place to live to pursue a career in acting? This particular YouTube channel is focused on specifically two things: acting in the film and television industry and acting here in the United States, because that is where all of my experience is. So if you're interested in pursuing a career in stage acting, in theater, then I'm probably not the best person to give you advice because I really don't have experience in that. So I just want to make that clear that my experience and my advice only applies to the film and television industry here in the United States. Okay, so the main topic is what's the best place to live to pursue an acting career? And I want to separate that question into two. The first is what's the best place to live to start your acting career? And the second is what's the best place to live to grow your acting career? Because I think those are two different questions with two very different answers. So let's tackle the first one. What's the best place to live to start your acting career? And I think that's an easy answer, and that is wherever you live right now. Can you start an acting career from whatever city you currently live in? Yes, 100% yes. Because the way you start an acting career is with training. That's the first thing that everyone needs to do. I see too many people say, hey, I want to be an actor, so how do I get an audition for a movie? Or, hey, I want to be an actor, how do I get an agent? Well, those people are getting way ahead of themselves. I mean, think about this. Imagine if a teenager said, I really want to play in the NBA. I've never played basketball before in my life, but I really want to play in the NBA. So how can I get a sports agent that can get me onto a team? That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? They're way ahead of themselves. They need to learn how to play basketball before they can try to get to play into the NBA. Same thing with acting. The first step is not to get an agent. The first step is not to get a role in a movie immediately. The first step is learning how to act, is by taking acting classes, and that can be done anywhere in the world, no matter what city that you currently live in, especially now where so many acting classes are available via Zoom online. That means you can sign up for a class, you can be on camera with an acting coach or an acting teacher and perform a scene. They can give you feedback, they can give you a critique and help you get better. Those are the steps that you actually take. So whenever people say that I live in a small town, there are zero opportunities here, that's incorrect. There are opportunities to learn, there are opportunities to get better, and especially if you are brand new, that's the steps that you have to take anyway. So take advantage of those. Take advantage of those classes that are available via Zoom. Take advantage of all the other things that you can do while living wherever you are. You could read acting books, you can check out other resources that can help you. Speaking of resources, you can download my free audition cheat sheet to help you with your auditioning. All of these things can be done no matter where you live. And besides training, what else can you do in whatever city you currently live in? Well, you can actually gain acting experience. You can actually start to act. And I'm not talking about acting in big movies and shows. Let's go back to that basketball analogy. Nobody starts their basketball career by playing in the NBA. There's not a single person who, imagine if they interviewed a basketball player after an NBA game and they said, this was my first time ever playing basketball in my life. That would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? So by the same token, No actor starts their career by being a lead character in a Marvel movie. They work their way up, right? So in your current city, even if it's not a big film and television market, there are probably opportunities to act. And if you're in a small town where there are not a lot of opportunities, you may live close to a big city. If you're a couple hours away from a major city, check out what the opportunities are in those cities, because I'm sure there are community theater where you can act in local plays. Now look, these plays are not going to have a huge audience. These plays are probably not going to pay any money, but what you're going to do is you're going to gain experience, you're going to gain a credit to put onto your resume, and you're going to be getting better as an actor by doing these things. You can also work on student film. So if there's a college nearby that has a filmmaking program, well, those students in those filmmaking programs are going to be making student films throughout the year, and maybe you can get a part in one of those student films. Again, this is not going to provide exposure. This is not going to pay you any money, but you're getting experience, you're getting a credit for your resume. You're also going to get demo reel footage, and it's another opportunity to act and get better and improve your acting. There are also opportunities to make money acting in pretty much every major city in America. Most major cities have talent agents. Now, those talent agents aren't necessarily the same as the ones in Hollywood. They're probably not going to get people auditions for Star Wars movies or whatever. But those agents in those cities are going to get auditions for local commercials, for company training videos and advertisements and things like that. These are the things that I did a ton of when I was acting in Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland didn't have a bunch of movies or television shows, but I was still repped by an agent in that city, and I had opportunities to make money acting in that market. And you might be able to find those as well where you live. Again, if you don't live in a big city, look at your nearest big city and see if there are opportunities like that available. See what agents are available in those cities, and maybe they can help you jumpstart your career while still living where you are right now. So you can do all of that from your current city. You can start by training, and then you can also start getting some experience, all without moving anywhere. Now let's move on to the next question. What's the best place to live to grow your acting career? This is where we start to see some of the limitations of a small market. And when I say small market, I don't necessarily mean small city. I mean a city or a state where there is not a lot of film and television production. I mean a market in terms of just film and TV production, in terms of work available for actors. Because Cleveland, Ohio, where I used to live, is not necessarily a small city. It's one of the major cities in the United States, but there just wasn't a lot of film and television production in that city or in the state in general. So that's why I consider it a small market. So when you live in a small market, there might be a time where you reach a plateau where that market can no longer serve your career aspirations, especially if you're trying to pursue film and television. So while you can start a career from anywhere, there may come a time where if you seriously want to pursue a career in film and television, where you're going to have to consider moving to one of the major production markets. And here in the United States, the major production markets are Los Angeles, New York City, and Atlanta. Those are the big three. There are some other cities with a lot of production as well, like Chicago, like New Orleans, like Albuquerque, New Mexico, and maybe a handful of others as well. But if you aren't in one of those cities, there's probably going to be a time in career where if you really want to grow, you're going to have to move to one of those markets, or at least move close to, within driving distance to one of those places. So now I know a lot of people will ask, well, why do I have to move? Why can't they cast me out of wherever I live and then I'll travel to whatever city that they're making the movie or making the show? Well, the big problem with that, two big problems with that. One is budgetary reasons. You got to understand that show business is a business. Making movies is a business. It costs a lot of money to make a movie or to make a television show. And every movie is a huge risk. It's a millions of dollars of risk because they have to make that money back when the movie comes out. So the people that make movies run it like a business, and just like any other business, they're trying to save money wherever they can. And one way that they can save money is to hire local actors, because when they hire someone from out of state or out of town, they have to pay their travel costs, they have to pay for a hotel while they're here, they have to pay their per diem while they're here. So those are all extra expenses for the production company when they hire someone from out of state. Whereas if they hire someone who currently lives in the city, they don't have to pay all of those extra costs. So it's cheaper for the production. So that's why when there is a show that's filming in Atlanta, Georgia, for example, the actors that live in Atlanta or live near Atlanta have the best opportunity to get auditions for that show and thus have the best opportunity to get cast in that show. Now, the next thing I know a lot of people will say is, okay, that's fine. I'll still live out of state, but I'm willing to work as a local hire. I'm willing to pay my own travel expenses. I'm willing to pay for my own hotel when I book something, and I'll go to that city and I'll work on the project, and production doesn't have to pay those extra expenses so they can hire me. Well, now is where we get into the second problem, and that's a logistical issue, and that is that production schedules change all the time. And what happens when a production schedule changes and all of a sudden, instead of needing you here in Atlanta next week, they now need you tomorrow? Are you able to get here at the drop of a hat? This is a very frequent occurrence in filmmaking. It's happened to me before where I thought they needed me next week, and then the night before, one day, they said, hey, we actually changed our schedule, something came up, and we're going to film your scene tomorrow instead. Well, if you live all the way across the country, are you able to get a flight and be there that night so that you can be on set that morning? That's very difficult. I know of instances where that has happened before, where they hired an actor from a different city, and then when the production schedule changed, that actor couldn't make it anymore, and then production had to scramble and try to hire a different actor so that they could stay on schedule. So they want to avoid that at all costs, and one way they can help make sure that doesn't happen is to hire local actors. That's why, for those two primary reasons, it's really beneficial to live where the productions are happening. My background is actually a great example of this. When I was living in Cleveland, Ohio, I was trying to get auditions for movies and television shows. They just weren't coming because I lived way too far away from the production markets. On average, in the 8 years that I was acting in Ohio, I got one audition for a movie per year on average. As soon as I moved to Atlanta, my first full year in Atlanta, I got over 100 auditions for movies and television shows. So that's 100 times more. That's crazy how much more opportunity I got as soon as I moved to a major production market. Production companies aren't doing this to be mean. They're not doing this because they hate people that live in other cities. They're doing this because they want to save money. They're doing this because it's a good business decision. But remember, this doesn't mean that you should move immediately. It's not like you decide you want to be an actor and then you should move right away. Do as much as you can in your current city first. Get as much training as you can, gain as much experience as you can before making that big move, because a move is a huge financial burden. Unless you have unlimited amounts of money, then move whenever you want. But if you don't, then plan it out. Do as much as you can where you are, and then make a plan to move to a bigger market. Now, if you are at that point in your career where you are considering a move, what is the best market to move to grow your career? Is LA the only option? Is LA the best place to go? Well, a lot of people think so because that's where Hollywood is. This is where I want to make a distinction between Hollywood the city and Hollywood the industry. Hollywood is a city that is in the LA metro area. And yes, that's where a lot of production happens. But Hollywood, the industry of movies and television shows that we call Hollywood, happens all over the country. There are many different cities, like I mentioned, New York, Atlanta, New Mexico, Louisiana, and a bunch of others, Chicago. I currently live in Atlanta, as many of you know who follow my channel. I've never actually lived in Los Angeles. I've never lived in Hollywood. And yet I've been able to work on a bunch of big movies and big television shows that most people will consider Hollywood movies, Hollywood shows, right? So you can live in other markets, but you have to know which ones have the most production. In my opinion, when you weigh all the pros and cons, I think Atlanta is the best market for actors who want to grow their careers in film and television. I've actually made a completely separate video all about acting in Atlanta. I'll put a link to it down in the description below, so if you want to hear some of my reasons why I think Atlanta is the best option, go check out that video. But maybe Atlanta isn't right for you. Again, it was right for me, and I know it's been really great for a lot of my actor friends that live here, but it's a personal decision. There might be reasons why Chicago may be a better option, or even LA might be a better option. For instance, what if you already live in California, but you don't want to live too far from home? Then maybe LA is a better option for you, and you don't want to go all the way across the country to Atlanta, right? So like I said, this is a personal decision. It's a big decision, so do your research. Research all the big markets, see what the pros and cons are, before you make a final decision of where to move. Okay, now let me talk to the international actors out there, the people that live in another country but want to pursue an acting career here in the United States. Listen, I really wish that I could tell you that it was gonna be easy. I really wish that I could tell you you could just follow these 3 simple steps and then you can get an agent, you could start auditioning for movies and television shows. But the reality is that it's gonna be very, very difficult to do from another country. Remember the story that I told you about my experience? When I lived in Ohio, I had a really hard time getting an agent to represent me for film and television because they considered me too far away from where the film and television production was. And I was already living in America. I was already living in the United States, but I was in the wrong city. I was too far away from where the productions were going on. So imagine how much harder it would be for someone that lived in another country, right? You got to think about this. Think about acting just like any other job. If you put it in perspective of other jobs, if I wanted to have a job as a doctor in a German hospital, can I do that from the US? No, I would have to move to Germany to do that. If I wanted to be a chef in a Japanese restaurant, I can't do it from where I live. I would have to move to Japan to really pursue that. So similarly, if you want your job to be an actor in American movies and TV shows, then you really will have to move to the US to make that happen. And I say that fully understanding that that is not an option for a lot of people, either for family reasons or financial reasons, that it's really hard to make that move to the US. The only time that I've seen it happen where someone that lived in another country was able to get an agent in the US was that when that person who lived in another country already had experience acting in movies and television shows in their home country, meaning they were already a working actor in their own country. That's the only time I've seen someone that lived overseas get an agent in the United States. I have not seen a single situation where someone lived in another country and they were brand new, had no experience acting in movies and shows, and was able to get an agent in the US. Maybe there is someone out there who has made that happen. And if you know someone who has made that happen, tell me who they are. Let me know down in the comments. Put me in touch with them. I would love to interview them on my channel so that I could spread the word and tell people how they were able to make that happen. But in my experience, in my 12 years as an actor, and from all the other actors that I know, I've yet to meet someone like that. So the best advice that I can give you is that if you are 100% determined to be an actor in American movies and television shows, then while you are in your current country, do as much as you can in terms of training, in terms of gaining as much experience as you can. And while you're doing that, make a plan to someday move to the United States, no matter what it takes. It might take you years. I don't know. I don't really know much about immigration, so you'll have to research that on your own. But I do know that there are actors that move to the US all the time because that's what they want to do. They want to pursue a career here in the United States, and they've made the move here. So if that's what you want for your career, you might want to consider making a plan to move to America. All right, guys, this was a long video. We had a lot to talk about. I hope it was helpful. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, remember to subscribe to this channel. Until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and I hope to see you on set one day.